Sounds good. Are we live now?
We are live. Welcome to week two for Unreal. But generally, we're kind of talking about the future of GSO. So for those joining us, thank you. This is me, one of your instructors, and Leo's on the other side.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Joining us. So as you guys are watching this, you are probably wondering what's up. So let's just get straight to the point. So Leo and I have been talking like heavily for the last 2-3 weeks, about what to do with the Unreal curriculum. And the only thing, and maybe this might change later, but currently we're thinking the only thing we really want to do with the Unreal curriculum is the boot camp, right? Like we really see a lot of value, and it is like the make a game curriculum, right? It's to combine all the other disciplines together, hopefully to one day, in about a year and a half worth of courses, produce a game that the team decided to do, and take it from there and learn the lessons from there. So it is definitely one of the most time-intensive curriculum out of current and future curriculums, because it involves a lot of commitment from both Leo and I, and as well as the students. And for something that's work too, it's very reliant on the students showing up, right? And so if you have attended scholar sessions before, once in a while I would talk about this, and it's a pattern that we've been seeing a lot, which is fine and it's expected. We ran the classes about twice now for both lighting and environment, and the things we see is that there's a lot of anticipation leading up to the first class, right? And then week 3 happens and we see like an 80% drop of not to say like people just forfeit, right? But in a way, don't show up and doing the homework assignments, posting in Discord, and it's pretty self-evident. If you guys are in those channels, you can see, it becomes less and less people staying on top of things, and that could be a number of reasons. Real life stuff happens, that requires your time commitment. So this is something that we've been talking about and we really believe in. And as you guys can imagine, we're in the beta phase right now, right? Where we're testing the courses, the quality of our courses. And, gratefully, a lot of you guys are members and see the value in that. So we know we have quality product for sure. And you guys know what type of quality that we're putting out there. So lately we've been thinking, how exactly do we become more transparent, so you guys know what the classes are coming, what classes are coming next, and what's holding it back. Currently, we're looking at the Unreal curriculum, and I don't think we have the numbers to produce the full-fledged game that we want, right? We're gonna need a good amount of people to stick it through the whole thing. And Leo, maybe you can talk more about this, because this is kind of like your brainchild about what you feel, what the curriculum in your ultimate perfect reality, how it would turn out.
Right. So I don't know. I was kind of just sitting around and wondering to myself, what would be like both a valuable and, from an educational perspective, a great way of teaching people how to use Unreal Engine 4. And on the flip side, what would make it valuable in the sense that it would be fun and you'd be able to learn what you needed to learn, right? So, like, I'll give you an example. Unreal 4, once it became free a couple of years ago, and the floodgates were kind of open. And I've talked to people, at Epic and stuff. We Games Go Online, we have a pretty good relationship with Epic, and even they were surprised. They were just like, "Wow!" Like we opened the floodgates, and we knew a lot of people were going to download Unreal Engine 4, but we had no idea that like the whole internet was going to try to get it, right? And that's an exaggeration, but a lot of people love to play games, and out of all those people, I mean, if you think about it, the games industry is so big in terms of consumers and players, but a large portion of that pool of people would like to make their own games. Um, some people, for example, want to make a game company, an indie game studio with their friends or with colleagues, and their dream is to make a game and release it on Steam or iOS or whatever, and do their own game studio. Some people don't want to do that. They're just like, I'd love to learn how to make games because I want to go work for Sony Santa Monica Studio, or I want to work at Naughty Dog or Bungie or something like that, right? And then there's people who don't care about any of those things, and their goal is just to become game developers. They want to mod games. They want to just make their own games and release them for free. They get a kick out of it, uh, which is pretty cool, right? But how in the world how do you learn how to make games, right? There's all these like schools and colleges, and some community colleges have programs for learning games and stuff. And they're not bad or anything. You can learn a lot of stuff from there, but it's really expensive. It's a huge commitment, and you're going to be pretty much forced to take semesters of classes that you probably don't need for what your goals might be, right? If you're just trying to be an indie game developer, maybe you don't really a class about like, I don't know, theory of something irrelevant is not important to you. So I sat down and I thought about what would be like a really cool way to learn, and what would pertain to what you need to learn, right? So I thought, well, there's all these YouTube videos that show you how to like, say, open Unreal Editor, place an object, scale it, rotate it, move it around. Then there's more advanced YouTube videos where it might be a couple of YouTube videos that show you how to, I don't know, take a level that's already been created, place some lights, maybe play some particle effects and stuff like that, and that's pretty much it, right? Um, I mean, there's a lot more videos out there that cover different things. So there's a wide spectrum. Some are great, some are not so great, and there's everything in between. But what I haven't seen online is like uh, someone that, or a group of someone's who's made a game and taught you how to make it, right? There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So I thought, wait a minute, if I was an indie developer, I would want to learn how to set up a Perforce server, how to, get my game project started, how to do, how to program, how to do systems design, how to get all my character controller programming done. If I'm doing weapons, how in the world do I program weapons and get that stuff to work? AI, um, everything from power ups to elevators and doors that you have to activate, right? Because if you go on YouTube and you do search for blueprint tutorial on how to make an interactive door, you'll probably find like 52 videos or something crazy like that. But there's no structure to it. Like, okay, you learned one person's way of doing an interactive elevator, but you still have this game you want to make, right? So that really doesn't get you anywhere. So how cool would it be to have industry professionals who have shipped titles and games sit down with you in Unreal 4 and show you how to make a game, right? And that's a pretty ambitious thing, but I believe it can be done. And the way that we want to do it is different than what anyone else is doing, right? And what makes it different is that, so pretend you're a student. This is what it would look like to you. You would basically join a team, and the team would be comprised of fellow students, and it would be like working almost at a studio, not in the sense that it's going to be like work, right? Like a 9 to 5, not like that. In the sense that you and a bunch of buddies are part of a team, a development team that's going to make a prototype indie video game based on Unreal 4. And there's going to be project leads, and the project leads are going to be us, the the developers who do this 9 to 5, who have been doing this for years and who have shipped titles, right? Oh, who else better to learn from than industry professionals? So these professionals, like Brandon and myself, and we'll have guest um, professionals who will jump in based on specialties or what's needed. And basically, we're going to be the project leads. We're going to be the design leads and the art leads, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to lay out the foundation for a game design document, milestone planning, so things that producers would need to know, right? We're going to set up a perforce and everything. And you guys, the students that are part of this program, are going to receive user accounts, and you'll be able to log in with Perforce um, from home, and you'll be able to pull down latest if you've ever worked with Perforce. If not, hey, guess what? You're going to learn how to use Perforce just like the pros. And the cool thing is that Perforce, which is a file management program, allows you to work together and collaborate as a team. Unreal technology, I mean, forget about Unreal Engine 4. Unreal Tech, period, has worked with Perforce for decades. And a lot of game engines work with Perforce. For example, Brandon and I have both worked on in the Call of Duty pipeline, where Perforce is used, every day. So it's a pretty popular file management program. So you'll be able to log in with Perforce, jump into Unreal from home, and you'll be tasked with stuff, right? So say, for example, you're a student who wants to learn environment art. Guess what? You're going to be an environment artist on this team and on this project. And you're going to be under Brandon because Brandon's going to be the environment lead, right? So what'll happen is Brandon, based on the game design document and the visual style guide that we, the art leads, are going to create for you guys, you're gonna get tasks. Just like if you run an indie game team or a small studio, and your task may be, okay, let's say for example, we're making a sci-fi game or something like that, and we're doing like a spaceship, like an interior of a spaceship. Maybe you, as an environment artist, are tasked with several other environment artist teammates to help build um, a docking port for the spaceship, right? So us, the leads, we're going to break it down. We're going to break down the tasks and everything, and we're going to hand out assignments. So one person may be in charge of building the door for the docking bay. Another person may be in charge of building set dressing props. Another person may be in charge of building the structure, like modular wall pieces, modular floor pieces, ceiling pieces, structure, things like that. We may have a VFX student who wants to learn how to do VFX for games, who will be in charge of doing VFX, for example, ambient particle systems, like mist or steam coming out of pipes or sparks coming out of like an exposed electrical circuit or something like that. And we're all going to work together to basically build out a game. And when you guys get stuck, because you will get stuck because making a game is hard, right? Um, you guys will basically turn in your work in the using continue with the example of the environment artist. Say, for example, you're the one that was in charge of doing that door. You'll complete your work, right? You'll log down, how long it took you. Maybe it was 40 hours, so like a work week or something like that. And you'll submit that to Perforce. Brandon, who is your environment project lead, will pull down from Perforce on his end, and he can check everybody's work, almost like checking homework, right? But it's not homework because we're making a game. So he'll be able to check your work and see if you met, like your tasks for the week or for the month or for the milestone, whatever it is. And he'll do critique. We'll have live sessions where we'll meet up. Um, live just like this, and you guys can ask questions, and Brandon in this case would give you art as your environment art lead. He'll give you feedback and he'll go, hey, look, the door's working out. Let's look at it. Let's look at the reference or concept art, whatever it is, our visual style guide. This is how we can improve the door. Da 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 da. He'll give you all that feedback, just like what we're doing now. Um, and then you'll go back into Perforce and Unreal or in Maya or whatever it is, and you'll work on the feedback to improve it, and you'll continue to develop your skills that way. And Brandon's going to help you develop your skills in that case, right, with using environment art as an example. And slowly but surely, we end up building this game. We build the environments for those students who want to learn Blueprint. You'll probably be giving like an actual title or a role as a designer on the project. And maybe myself, because I have a lot of experience with Blueprint, I will probably go ahead and blueprint up things like, say, our character controller or our weapon system. And what I'll do is I'll do that, submit it to Perforce. You as a student will be able to pull that down from Perforce at home, open it up, open up the blueprint, and see how I did, say, for example, a laser gun, or how I set up the player character controller. In case you're wondering, how in the world did he get the character to do sprinting, or have stamina, right, or have a health bar, whatever it is. You'll be able to open your project lead's work, check it out, reverse engineer it, learn from it, and then when we get around to the live session for that week, we'll all be together, in a room like this on Google Hangouts or whatever, and you'll be able to ask questions. So maybe you got the character controller and you're wondering, what was your thought process for setting up the stamina system? I looked at it, but I didn't quite understand the blueprint. Even though you commented it and stuff, would you mind explaining or maybe talking about how you came to creating that blueprint and what your thought process was? And then I'll help you. I'll work with you live and answer your questions and help you out with that stuff. And we'll just continue doing that. That's pretty much uh, kind of the high level of what I'm thinking for this Unreal 4 boot camp. I think it could be pretty cool, and it could be like a lot of fun to do this. I know a lot of people would be interested in something like this.
Yeah, like, so that is even like a small preview of what we're planning. So it's a lot more time intensive from both ends, right? The time commitment that you guys put in is the time commitment from us. We're basically building the game with you guys. So it's a lot more than me showing you guys how to use ZBrush. You watch the recording, submit the homework, and I review the homework, right? So looking at that and looking at, I feel like we're too early to do that. Because we're still building up this community within GSO to have the level of commitment for students to start relying on each other. The worst thing we can do is, like, we have 20 students who are really loving it, right? Are on top of things. But by the end of 6 months, that whittling down to like 2 students, you can't finish the game that way. So that's how most projects get canceled. And that is so disheartening to the few students that are really committed. But the class and that type of curriculum that we are setting up, and maybe that's the huge reason why it hasn't been done before, requires a certain level of being serious, basically. So there was a question on their Unreal channel. I don't know if you answered this or not, Leo, but the question is, do you guys envision games created through the GSO program, like the Unreal Bootcamp, being released commercially? If so, what kind of process would be involved with that? So my initial thinking, we talked roughly about that. It's like, all right, how do we make this fair so that, someone within the students group, I don't think anyone's that vicious, but claim ownership over the whole game that, like, our international group of students have all worked on, right? And most importantly, releasing all the data, because essentially we're giving you access to everything, right? And then just releasing that, which is not the worst, but it hurts the morale a bit, right? And it can be dangerous, right? So there's a lot of things, it might be a thing where, any project that we make is going to be owned by GSO, but we'll definitely incorporate some kind of profit sharing or some internship. We haven't gone that far yet. You know, we're still experimenting.
Yeah.
But you know, just to keep things safe, where to protect the students, ourselves, and the property, something like that has to be implemented, so that, you know, when it is a viable product, right? Let's say a year and a half and everyone's kicking ass and it is fun, it is cool, and it is something that we release to the public, you know, most likely it'll be a free game, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
And we generate
Yes.
content
So the main
or something.
thing, the main thing with this would be education.
Yeah.
But it's going to be community education. Community, not like a wiki page online. That's a different type of community education. This community education in the sense that you guys imagine if a bunch of people from the Unreal forums got together, right? And they all just somehow unified and said, you know what? Unreal is out there. It's free. Let's make a game. But not everybody knows how to make a game. It's extremely hard. Even people in the games industry, a lot of times don't really know how to make a game until they've shipped several titles. It sounds weird, but it's true. Like it takes a while for you to really understand the high level. I work with experienced people at my studio who have shipped AAA titles, who have only focused on like, say for example, prop modeling or doing prop art, and they have no idea how to use like Unreal Engine or any um, game engine, proprietary or public, right? And they don't know the whole wheel, like every spoke in the wheel of how to make a game. So it's really hard to make a game. So the way you got to think about this is it's mainly educational. That's what we're going for, and because a lot of people don't know this unless you've actually developed games and shipped titles. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. There's a lot of hands. For example, I mean, Brandon knows this. I know this. But just to give you guys kind of like a little peek at how it works behind the closed doors of a studio, say, for example, you're working on a game, some first person shooter, right? You have a team of, say, like a dozen environment artists. One environment artist isn't going to work on a few props like for 2 or 3 years. That's not the way it works. You have environment artists that jump around. So, say for example, you have an environment artist that does like a lot of terrain sort of work. That environment artist is going to move around and work on multiple levels, multiple map teams levels, right? And there may be a finishing artist who just has really good art eye, and at some point may come and do some finishing work and some polish work on the previous person's terrain. And it may not even be that. It may be that the terrain person went on vacation. They already had a vacation planned, right? So someone else steps in and does that. So there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. A lot of people will touch your work. And that's exactly how this is going to work because that's just the way game development is. It's very organic. It's not rigid. You can't just like plan it ahead of time and say, this is how it's going to be for 2 years. This person's going to work on this person's going to work on this, and all the pieces are going to fall into place exactly like the design document says it will. That never happens. It never has happened in the history of the games industry, and it never will. That's just not the way it works. So, to give you an example, not to like ramble too much off the topic, the question is, do you guys envision games created through GSO program released commercially? If so, what kind of process is involved with that? Right, like nothing is set in stone because we're still concepting this whole idea, right? But what I can tell you is the short answer to that is no. And the reason to that is, say, for example, we start doing the boot camp course, right? And we're starting with the first semester or whatever. Um, we start working this game. Let's say there's 50 of you guys, and that 50 people is environment artists, visual effects artists, animators, designers, lighting artists, et cetera, right? Materials artists, what have you. As we start building this game, people are going to touch different parts of the game, right? So it'll be very rare for someone to be able to say, "Hey, I worked on this GSO game for 2 years worth of semesters, and this is my work," right? Because chances are it's not going to be your work. By then, 5 or 6 people may have contributed to that piece of art or that piece of work, right? So it's no longer one person's piece of work, it's the whole team's. I mean, that's how it works in the games industry, and that's how it would work with this, not because we are forcing it to be that way, because that's just the way game development is, right? So what we don't want is, or what we can't have is, there's 50 people working on this game, and one one environment artist takes all of the environment assets from the game and puts them on the Unreal Marketplace, right, and sells them for him or herself, and presents it as their work. First of all, that's pretty messed up. It's unethical, and second of all, that person would pretty much be, uh, I don't want to say stealing, but it's a form of plagiarizing, right? In a way, you are kind of stealing people's work because you're profiting, making money off of it, and you didn't exactly work on all that stuff, right? You're a student who helped with that stuff. So that's not what we want. We don't want stuff popping up in the marketplace and stuff like that. So to protect everyone, we'll probably have some kind of a end user license agreement that you'll have to agree to if you take this course. And I don't know what that agreement looks like right now. We'll figure that out when we cross that bridge when the time comes. But it'll be something like that. Just that no one takes the whole game and throws it up on Steam and tries to sell it like if it was their game, right? That'd be pretty messed up. That's not what we want. This is for learning. So if you're coming to GSO Bootcamp, it's so that you can learn game development with other fellow like-minded game developers, aspiring game developers, and to learn game development from industry pros and have fun doing it and enjoy it. And the main goal that I would say for a student taking this is you should come into it thinking, my goal is to learn to make games, be taught by industry pros who are going to help me, take me by the hand, answer my questions one on one, either on the Discord channel or through live sessions, answer your questions live. And then finally, uh, portfolio, right? Because besides getting the experience and the knowledge of making games and being able to work with like minded people and industry pros, you get portfolio. So by the end of it, if we get this game done and it's pretty cool, you can use in your portfolio. So if you're an aspiring, game developer and you're in that situation where you want to work in the games industry, but you don't have experience, you don't have any ship titles under your belt, and you need some portfolio stuff, this could be extremely useful because unlike making a prop at home that is not going to be as impactful, showing that you worked on a project for a long term with other people shows that you understand collaborative workflow. You understand how to use Perforce, right? You understand how to work in Scrum and Agile, how to work in teams and stuff to build like an actual game. So that could be more useful than simply having just an ArtStation page with like a handful of props that you maybe textured in Substance or something like that.
Yeah, so hopefully that has answered some questions. We proposed a problem, and we are coming up with a solution that we're going to throw at you guys, right? And we're totally open for any concerns, any suggestions that you guys might have. But basically, the best solution we came up with is starting a Patreon, right? And what's good about this is that there's a transparency with it that shows, hey, not everyone has to be a member, right? Our main goal has always been, my dream and Leo's dream is to have this GSO have all the disciplines that gives you 1 year to 2 years to 3 years of courses for that specific discipline. And we're talking about, right now we're doing environment, lighting. We want the Unroot Bootcamp to be our third because we really are amp about that idea. Eventually, we're going to add concept art. We're going to add sound design, game design, level design, right? Technical art programmer. These are all the different jobs within the game industry that you can be to develop a game. So the Patreon, we have it up. We want your advice, and I'm just going to showcase it a bit just to go through to give you an idea of what exactly we're looking for to begin the Unreal Boot Camp, and more importantly, complete the curriculums that we already have running, right? Because the patterns we're seeing is this, right? There's a certain level of commitment we need for every class to unlock, basically. And what we're seeing is we usually open every 3 months for enrollment. And you guys have been a part of this, so you know the process, right? We're doing that just so that we limit the amount of students that come in, so we're still in the testing phase. We're making sure everything's running smoothly, that we're providing the service in a correct way before we open up the floodgates. We don't want that to happen and crowd up, the ability to ask questions within Discord and get answers, right? So we have been limiting that to a certain extent for that reason. And what we're seeing is that the students that stick to it, right? We have a few students that finish the first course with excellent work. And it would boil it down to essentially from 100 to maybe 8 people, right, within 3 months, for various reasons why. But that number has been a pattern. We ran it twice, and it's been consistent the last 2 times. So what we're afraid of is that, eventually it's going to end up being one person, which is completely fine, right? If we can graduate one GSO member or a GSO student, and they go on and get job, Leo and I completed our goal, right, of providing free game dev education to anyone who wants to learn, and they were able to go out in the world and get the jobs with a kick-ass portfolio. That'll be amazing. Our problem isn't that. Our problem is, like, how do we get more of that, right? How do we get people more involved and be more transparent about, what is the next course or what is the next discipline? These are the common questions we get all the time. Another question is like, when are we teaching game design or level design, right? So Unreal Bootcamp hopefully will kind of go over a lot of those things until we have a dedicated curriculum for everything. We definitely have the scholars that are ready to go, but again, scholars cost money, right? So we want to get to a point where we have a good enough community to justify getting these guys, because those guys just take a while to make, as you guys can imagine as you're watching them. Leo and I can talk forever, but that's the edited version, right? That's us like cutting it down and making sure that it's like of quality. Right? There's a lot of hours involved in doing these things. And Unreal Bootcamp, specifically to you guys who are watching in the Unreal class, way more involved. I mean, we're basically making a game with you guys. And, we want to make a game and have 50 students by the end of it finish, because more than for us, you guys have to rely on each other to finish props, finish certain work to make the game function, right? It's not like a individual type of work, right? It's a group project. And so as a group, you need to all be up to par. Otherwise, the team falls apart. So we're going to link this on. Won't go over it too much. You guys should peruse it on your own and type up your thoughts, type up your thinking. Current members, right? I'm going to have a specific talk to you guys to how to transfer the membership to the Patreon, just to keep it all on one roof. So if you guys want to be a member, talk to those guys a lot or ask me questions. But just to quickly go over what the Patreon thing is all about, right? This is live. We just started it, and the goals and what it is detailed in there for yourself, for you guys to look at right? I won't go over everything, but the main thing is, the member, if you're not a member, it's still a $10 thing. Weekly scholar critiques from our friends, ourselves, with GSO Workshop. I feel like it's great quality, but don't take my word for it. Go and ask the current members and see what they think, right? You guys should do your investigation. Make sure it is of something. But that's, if you guys don't know what Patreon, how it works, it's a monthly subscription type of thing. And it's not like a thing where you guys have to buy in to still get courses, right? This is more for us to demonstrate what is needed for us to complete courses on our end, right? Because this shows the amount of commitment on the student side to justify the amount of work that we're going to put in to make available for everyone, basically, right? So again, GSO will always remain free, but this is a way to support us into making this whole thing a reality, right? A curriculum for every discipline within GSO. So right now, if you guys are only taking the Unreal courses, there's an environment and lighting curriculum that has already started, right? We're actually pretty close to unlocking level 2 once we transfer the current members over to the Patreon page. But our goal has always been, and Leo and I have been looking at our thing, it's about 3 years. If we were to do nonstop with like a 2-3 week break in between these courses, we're looking to 2 to 3 years worth of courses that is very specific to what you want to be. We're talking about very lighting, and we're talking about environment specifically. And the reason we picked this is those are the most abundant type of jobs in the game industry. So that's what we're focusing on, and that is our specialty, right? And eventually we want to unlock the Unreal Bootcamp. That's about 1.5 years worth of curriculum. Very time intensive, both on the student side and on our side. We're basically making a game together. Additional disciplines, after we do all those 3 things, we want to start adding full curriculums to the other disciplines like concept art, character art, animators, level design, game design, programming, technical art. Like, it is a long-term goal, but it is definitely displayed here on the page of what the future of GSO and what we need to do to get there, right? So I'm talking different levels. So levels are basically the amount of funds that needs to be coming in for us to get this thing going, right? And again, any level of support is definitely appreciated, but not necessary for you to take these courses, right? We're still doing the 3-month open enrollment. Once you're in type of mentality. But like, again, if you guys have already taken the environment course or the lighting course, we had to delay those courses because not enough students finished. And the students that did finish is like at amazing quality. And it's no secret that, they liked the program so much that they became members. And again, I'm just saying, we see a pattern, and we see that the more members we have, the more commitment we see from the students. And it seems like the math works out that way. So we're equating that to, all right, so, if we work it up so we make the membership at least attractive enough, then we will be able to continually provide free game dev education and have students show up, right? And take it all at once, and more importantly, go to our ultimate curriculum where it's Unreal Bootcamp, where the students can rely on each other, right? It's very hard to rely on a student that hasn't been turning in homework, basically. And I've been through this in my own student career. I've seen it professionally, right? I've seen it everywhere. When it happens, it sucks, because no matter how much work and how much time you put into something, 6 months down the line, something like that happens. It erases your whole development. So this is pretty much, what probably the next 2-3 years of GSO has to do to get there. And we're displaying on a page, and we're open for discussion. And I'm going to post this on the general tab, and also, the Unreal tab and the member tab, specifically to you guys. and have an open discussion. See, look at the goals. And I know I mentioned pro, but you don't have to be a pro to be Unreal. We're looking at and concentrating on creating more members, and it is necessary to have that type of mentality, because it's hard to do the Unreal Bootcamp without giving feedback, right? At the very basic foundation of it, we're essentially meeting every week to look at your progress, but at the same time, making sure that what we're putting on the Perforce server or sharing sample projects to you guys is being used correctly. Because if you do a misstep on week 2 and we don't check back on you until week 5, you could have wasted those 3 weeks. And it's not just you, like the full, your whole team was operating on the wrong path just because a mistake was made. So it was it's kind of necessary that we look at your work. So if you're not doing it, that's fine. You can just try to do it on your own, which is what GSO is about. You don't have to buy in at all, right? You can do it on your own, and if you're fully committed, you can make it, right? If you fully commit, do good work, and you continue to do good work for the remaining 1 year or 2 years or whatever, you're probably going to make it, I have to say, because we have progress check, right? If you haven't taken a course from us, just because you take a course doesn't mean you're totally in for the second one. No, we actually make sure that your work is good to make sure you understand the principles and don't get stuck, right? Because you didn't learn the basic foundation of things, right? There is progress checks at the end of each semester. So if you happen to do that without being a member, paying a cent, which is completely fine by us, and you just keep passing every semester to more and more advanced courses, I can guarantee, and Leo can probably say the same thing, that student's probably pretty good to make it past us and go to the very end completely on their own. So we're really proud of that student as well. So it's not like we're trying to force everyone to become a member. We're just saying that the pattern has been mostly the students that are very dedicated becomes a member. It's just what we've been seeing, right? So we're just adapting to the pattern here. So again, I'm gonna drop this on there. You guys have been awesome. Any questions, go ahead. We're constantly going to look at Discord because we are really, really wanting to know you guys' input. Members, as I mentioned before, I'll be talking to you guys personally who are already members, if you guys are interested, to transfer the Patreon, right? How to continue on. Because I think we're really close to unlocking the second courses for the environment and lighting curriculum. So that's our next goal basically, but we got to transfer everyone over first. So again, Leo was mentioning what Perforce is. There's a question about what that is. It's basically, go ahead.
I can actually show you. I'm actually, what's this? Yeah, I'm going to show you guys something real quick. Here, I'm going to multitask here with all the cores in my brain. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. Let me know if you can see it. You can see my screen.
Yeah, your screen should be up. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm a visual person, so I figured just hearing somebody in the background drone on probably isn't too helpful. So just real quick, just to give you guys some info on what this is. So real quick, what are kind of the goals of this Unreal Bootcamp course, right? Very simply put, you're going to learn game development from industry professionals, people who have shipped AAA games, right? You're going to learn to work in a collaborative team environment. So you're going to learn like Agile, Scrum, Perforce. I don't want you to think that when I say learn to work in a collaborative team environment, I'm just simply saying, oh, you're going to work with like 20 other people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about learning how to use Agile, Scrum, Perforce to work in a collaborative team. If this is more relevant for those developers who want to eventually build their own game studio or game development team, whether it's an indie game studio or a mod team or something like that, or for those individuals who their ultimate goal is to go work at a AAA game studio or a game studio, right? If it's a professional game studio that's actually shipping products, whether it's mobile, whether it's consoles like PS4 or PC or whatever it is, they're probably going to use something like Agile or Scrum, something along those lines, in that kind of wheelhouse to ship their products. And they have producers, they're going to manage all that stuff. Um, if you just kind of try to get a job and they look at you and they go, oh, or do you know how to work in an agile or scrum environment? And you never heard of that before, it's not going to help you. But if you go in and, they're interviewing you or they ask you these questions and you know what agile and scrum are, you know how to use Perforce for game development, particularly with Unreal 4, you're ahead of the game. No pun intended, but you're ahead of the curve because a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people, uh, unless they've shipped games and worked with Perforce in pipelines like at a studio, a lot of people have just heard the word Perforce. Maybe they've seen the word Perforce in the Unreal UI, but they don't know like how to log into a Perforce, how to use it, or what it's even used for, right? So this is like the professional side of things that you're not really going to learn from YouTube videos or a wiki or a forum post or something like that online. You might get some little tidbits of information here and there, but like how many of you guys can say, oh yeah, I've sat down with professional game developers in person before and they've shown me how to use agile scrum in game development, they've shown me how to use Perforce. I'm going to go ahead and take a stab at it and say zero. uh, Not many people have been shown how to use that outside, of the games industry, right? Like Brandon and I know it, our colleagues know it, but someone who's totally new probably wouldn't know it. I'd be very surprised if they did. And then the other goal is the project planning for games. This is really important because you don't see enough of this, and there's nothing kind of sadder than seeing a really motivated group of indie developers or students or modders or whatever, what have you, aspiring game developers get together, set up some kind of private forum board or Discord channel, go, all right, guys, we're going to make a game, right? But then you sit down with Unreal and it's like, okay, what's the first step, right? And then you're already tripping and stumbling kind of over yourselves. So project planning is really important in any industry, not just games, but heck, even if you work at like a marketing firm, you have to understand project planning, right? For your clients, say clients Coca-Cola, you got to know how to do project planning for their fall marketing campaign and stuff like that, right? Same thing for games. So I personally don't think that there's a lot of really good info out there on efficiently writing up game design documents. So that would be something that, at least for me, it interests me to teach you guys because there just isn't enough really good info about it out there, besides some articles on like Gamma Sutra and stuff. Milestone planning is really important if you're working with a team of people, whether it's a small team like 5 people or a larger team like 25 or 50 people. Milestone planning is very important because you'll find that very quickly within the first couple of weeks of developing your game. People don't really know what task to do. They don't know what their goal or objective is. They don't know how to do a sprint. And what ends up happening is people just kind of start to fall off the side and get inefficient. And deadlines start to fall out of place, and deadlines are not met, and work's not being done. So milestone planning is really important, and milestones are usually tracked by producers at game studios. In case any of you guys were wondering, tasking and tracking is really important. Again, producers, but a lot of times individuals are have the responsibility of tracking. So for example, Trello has become really popular at many game studios now, where things like Trello or spin-offs or programs that are similar to Trello will be used to track uh, employees or developers tasks and things like that. So project planning for games is really important, and that's an area that I really want to cover in this boot camp course, because if you don't, what's that old saying, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail, right? So this is really important. And then finally, the last goal is to have a portfolio and experience. Some of you want to get a job in the games industry, right? So, what better way to demonstrate that to potential future employers or companies you're trying to interview with and stuff than to show them high quality artwork? Or I put art in parentheses because not everybody's trying to be an artist. Some people are trying to be designers and other things. But you want to show high quality work, right? And if you worked on a game and I'm just saying for a good while, say a year or two, because it takes a while to make a game, right? Um, you want to make sure that you can show off high quality work. Um, Production experience is very important. Working on a project like this with us, with GSO, you're going to get production experience. And the word production is very important because that ties in with all this stuff, doing sprints, agile, scrum, things like perforce, project planning, milestone planning, uh, tracking tasks and things like that, like task management and stuff like that. That's all production experience. So that will help you immensely. If you can talk shop about this stuff with a potential future employer, they're going to look at you and go, "Whoa, this person doesn't just have some cool artwork to show on their website. They freaking know what they're talking about when it comes to like planning and performing in a game development in a studio or whatever." And then finally, being able to work in a team, take direction from art leads, because that's how this would work, right? You'd work in a team with other students that are in this boot camp, but you're also going to be taking direction from Brandon and myself. So knowing how to commit to deadlines and meet deadlines and stuff from all this production experience will help with future employers. If you can go back and be like, hey, you ever heard of this GSO thing? No? Here, let me show you. Yeah, I worked on this game with about 25 other people. The project leads were these two guys who these are their backgrounds or whatever. They shipped all these AAA games and they taught me everything they know, and this is the game that we created. And you show them a little trailer for the game or whatever, right? Or heck, if it's really fun, let them play the game, right? And then they'll see that and they kind of just go, whoa, this person has a portfolio. They may have not shipped games, but this thing that they did is kind of cool. Like they have a whole working game that looks cool, plays good, and they seem to understand, agile, scrum, sprints, milestone planning, meeting deadlines, taking direction, stuff like that. So that's really useful. And then finally, some of the details of, like, so what is this? Basically, the Unreal 4 Bootcamp is a game built with Unreal Engine 4, and we're aiming at a first-person shooter, and that's mainly because Brandon and I combined have a ton of first-person shooter, experience shipping first-person shooter games. Um, so it just made sense, right? Uh, this is going to be a game, or not a game, but a project that's going to run on a Perforce server that we're going to set up for you guys for our project, right? And it's going to be up there 24/7. So if you're in a different time zone or you're just a night owl like me, and it's 2, 3 in the morning, and you want to jump into Unreal, you suddenly got the bug, and you want to work on that new weapon that we're adding to the game this month or for this milestone, you can jump into Perforce 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, runs on the cloud, so it's always there. It's It's there for you, so you can log in, do your work, check your work back in, um, and help out your fellow teammates. And then finally, you need to think of this as an educational course. The focus is education, but the way that you do the education is unique. You're not going to, have a textbook. We're not going to have you guys go out and buy the 24-hour guide to making games in Unreal Engine 4. You're literally going to make a game. You're going to learn to make a game by making a game with a other like-minded students and aspiring game developers like you and your buddies that you're going to make new friends. You're going to get to know these people. You're probably going to work with them for many, many months. Um, so you guys are basically going to bond and become, teammates and stuff, which is something that happens in the real game industry. You become friends. That's how I know Brandon, actually. That's how we know each other. We met each other. We actually got orientation at a job the same day, and that's how we met. And we've been friends ever since. Even though that studio went under and went out of business and everybody got laid off, we're still buddies. And then finally, the other part of the puzzle is that you're going to be learning. You're going to be making a game not just with like-minded people like yourselves, but you're going to actually have project leads like Brandon and myself, who are professional game developers. Together, we've shipped games in the Halo, Call of Duty, and Bioshock franchises. Um, so you will learn some pretty cool stuff. And some last details. I mean, you're going to be part of dev team. You're going to be fulfilling a role just like you would at a studio, whether it's a big studio or a small studio. You are fulfilling a role. You guys get to choose, by the way, what you want to be on the team. So if you want to be a designer, if that's what you want to learn to do, you can be a designer. That could be a role. You want to be an environment artist, that could be a role. You want to be a visual effects artist, that could be a role, etc., etc. Level designer, what have you, a lighter, whatever you guys want to do, you get to choose. You'll have an account, of course, with credentials, so you can log into the Perforce. The Perforce will be password protected, so that nobody that's unauthorized can go in there and take stuff or or break anything or anything like that, right? So you guys will get your credentials to log into Perforce and have fun. We will have weekly live sessions with your project leads, which are your instructors, which are us, right? Where we'll give you critique, we'll answer questions live, help you guys with any issues or problems you may run into, or just chat, whatever you guys want to talk about. We'll, of course, as usual, we'll have a Discord channel. We'll probably make a new Discord channel just for the Unreal Bootcamp developers, all of you guys and us, and we'll be in there. And between live sessions, you got a question, you can post it up there. Brandon or myself, or even a fellow teammate who may be knowledgeable and have an answer to that question can jump in and help you guys out. And then finally, the way this works is you'll get tasked with stuff, um, and you'll submit that work, and you'll get critique from the project leads, which are us, and you'll use that critique to improve the work, make it better, and just make the project more awesome for everyone.
Yeah. So the Unreal curriculum is, I think, going to be the most fun curriculum that we're going to do. It requires the most amount of work. Therefore, there are things that need to happen for it to be fully unlocked. And again, the information is going to be on the Patreon page. We're basically at level 2, which is just unlocking the second courses for the environment and lighting curriculum. The amount of students that are on the waiting list right now, right? Because again, we're only opening up the admissions enrollment like once every 3 months. Like honestly, if the students and if you guys are liking what we're doing, and if everyone just contributes $1, like we'll actually fulfill everything by tomorrow. But again, it requires that type of commitment and to require to give us the time that is necessary to create these things, right? What we're seeing is now that there's a lot of drop off, right, which is expected, but it is also informing us how exactly should we change this so that students stick around, but at the same time guarantee, at least for the Unreal Bootcamp, that there's enough students to make a game, right? That's the most important part. Like once we start doing group projects, we need a group. Can't be with that one person and then just Leo and I in a room hashing a game. You know, it's not going to work. And I don't think it'll benefit anyone to make that type of game anyways, right? It's just way too much time intensive for anyone to finish that game. So it needs a group. It needs you guys to come in there and be serious, right? And Patreon is a step towards let's be serious and let's make this. So again, it's not like you have to be a patron, right? GSO is towards making everything free. It still is, right? So it takes the first few committed students to pretty much unlock everything for everyone else forever, basically. So that we talked your ear off for the last hour. Hopefully, thank you for you guys asking awesome questions in the live session, and you guys watching this after you wake up, come back from work or whatever. I dropped the Patreon link on the channels. Take a look at it, peruse through it, look at the different goals that needs to be necessary, that needs to be unlocked for everyone to continue. Basically, we're pretty much at level 2. If we transfer everyone over that is currently a member, we're near level 2, and level 2 is basically unlocking the second courses for the environment and lighting. So it takes a little longer for the Unreal Bootcamp to get there. You know, Leo and I can't wait. Once we have all the students together, Crash Course is continuing, of course. You know, it's 6 weeks long. It's happening. So that's at least an Unreal taste until the Unreal Bootcamp. But until we finally get to that part where we have 50 students that are ready to go, unfortunately, we have to wait. All right, we really do need to wait to make that thing right, make it the way we want to make it. We have to get to a certain point before we can do that. So thank you for you guys joining. Just let us know what's up in the Discord channel, and please let us know about the Patreon. If you feel like you know, you're in Swarper, we want to hear about that. If you feel like, you know, certain things we need to adjust to make it feel reasonable, we'll do that as well. So, and current members, I'll talk to you. All right. So,
do we? I know. Actually, didn't answer the question about Perforce. You said somebody had a question about what Perforce is or what it's used for.
I think they already answered it within the chat. So,
okay, cool.
And Leo has said it, so just rewind around the 15-minute mark.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they got some good stuff on the website too. If you want to look at Perforce on Google, they have great videos and explanations on what it is.
Right. So, thank you guys, and we're gonna go off live. Please continue the discussion in Discord. We're gonna read it, and we're gonna be very active because we want to make this work. We feel very positive that at least the Patreon serves one purpose: how transparent what the goals are for GSO for everything to work. Let us know your thoughts. All right. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Take care.